Could this be the year when VMware plays catch-up to the rest of the cloud kings? In 2020, the cloud stocks roared, key beneficiaries of the stay-at-home economy. But VMware, which is the leading maker of virtualization software, the very thing that makes the cloud possible, by allowing you to run multiple virtual machines on a single server, actually saw its stock fall 7%. When you drill down, I think it's kind of nuts, because while the company does have some on-premises exposure, the kind of purchases that got delayed last year, VMware is still on track to beat its full-year forecast, and management issued that guidance before the pandemic. So what's the problem? I think this company was too mature to capture the market's fancy in 2020. For a cloud play, VMware is basically a value stock, trading at less than 20 times earnings. Plus, we keep waiting to find out whether its parent company, Dell, which you know I like, will give investors what they want and spin off VMware, an idea they floated last summer but could lay a lot of stock down to the market. So could this be their time to shine? Let's check in with Sanjay Poonen, VMware's Chief Operating Officer, to get a better sense of where the company's headed. Mr. Poonen, Happy New Year and welcome back to Mad Money.
Jim, Happy New Year to you and your viewers. And let me also say congratulations to you. I think you've completed 16 years running Mad Money. What a run you've had.
Well, thank you. It has been a long time. We've been talking a long time, and you've been a bit of an oracle for what's going on with the cloud. And could you just give us the state of the union of the cloud from where you sit at VMware?
Yeah, I think, listen, Jim, there's an inevitable move to the cloud, which we began to see. If you look at the cloud infrastructure business, it's about a $120 billion business predicted to be this year, growing 35%. We were one of the first companies to really build this indispensable bridge from the private cloud, which we pioneered, 85 million workloads running on VMware in private clouds, the biggest banks, telcos, public sector in the world, but then partnerships with our preferred partner, AWS, but then every one of the public clouds built bridges into VMware and came inside our tent to get that bridge built. But also we're seeing edge clouds, and we think this pendulum of the private cloud, the public cloud, and the edge cloud is here to stay. And we think as that develops, this is going to be the biggest move in the data center, and we are primed to help our customers take advantage of that perfect balance of private and public and edge clouds. And we're seeing a number of our customers, like FedEx, for example, really drive, for example, a edge cloud with our partner Dell. Rob Carter, who's their president of technology, an incredible visionary. You think of FedEx as a logistics company, but they're increasingly thinking about compute and storage and networking happening at the edge, close to perhaps their distribution centers and so on. And we're going to see many, many other companies. Vice versa, companies like IHS Markit has driven tremendous amount of innovation with us and Amazon and moving their workloads to the cloud. So we believe that this phenomenon of cloud infrastructure happening is going to move much faster.
Let me interrupt for 1 second, because as soon as I hear FedEx, what do I think of? I think of the vaccine. When I think of the vaccine, I think of cybersecurity. When I think of cybersecurity, I think of SolarWinds, which a lot of people feel is really the Pearl Harbor of cybersecurity. I worry that somewhere along the line, FedEx gets hacked, and VMware's got to stop it.
I think the SolarWinds event, just like Petya and WannaCry that happened before, is a wake-up call to security across the board. And security is a team sport. We need a village to be able to combat that. This is as important as terrorism. This was a deep threat. And we believe this is going to have security professionals move away from point tools to a lot more of trusted platforms. And increasingly, we need to take what's called zero trust or an intrinsic security approach to this. So our focus has been, helping large number of our customers, whether it's government, whether it's banks, ensuring that they have a proper security platform. Because this sort of point tool approach from network to endpoint to cloud being very disparate has to move away to something that's a lot more trusted. But we've also published a set of cybersecurity hygiene rules. This is just like brushing your teeth, Jim. We want to make sure that people have some basic hygienic rules they've set up. For example, multi-factor authentication. Don't just put your passwords on pieces of paper and make them ABC 1, 2, 3. Have a multi-factor authentication which has a second factor. Maybe it's your mother's maiden name or some other secret code that you have. Having patching and all of that set up. Segmentation, micro-segmentation, so that the people who are privileged can get access to certain apps and everybody else. So there's a number of such things that we've published, and we're working with many of our customers to make this something that's mainstream and developed into their practices. And the final thing is really building a network of chief security officers that advise us. This is going to be a team sport that we're partnered with many of the best security companies, but also many of our large customers that are advising us on the future of this movement.
Okay, Sanjay, one thing I love to always leave you with is an opportunity to be able to speak about something involving ESG, involving what VMware, what you're doing for people who are disenfranchised, because you're such a great spokesperson for people in the Valley, in California, trying to do the right thing.
Well, we were fortunate, Jim, as we reflected on 2020. I mean, it was an incredible year. We took care of our employees, but then as we looked at the world at large, to really ask ourselves, what do we want to accomplish in the next 9 years, and set out 30 goals for 2030. You'd expect, because we are kind of been one of those de facto standards that have driven energy savings in the data center, we have a number of things that relate to zero emissions and being able to use renewable energy. But I'd point to two things that we're very excited about. One is we want to see more diversity in the workplace, and we're committed to having 50% of our managers be women. We want to hire one woman for every one male that we hire, and really see a more diverse workforce with underrepresented minorities and women. The second thing is this big idea of academies. One of the things that was important to us during the last year was, even during a downturn, our employees and our community want us to invest in them. And the way to do that is to invest in their training and their enablement, their education. So this big idea of academies mean that we're going to educate people. We think we can educate 15 million people. For example, developers. We have this concept of pivotal labs where we're going to educate developers. You and I could become developers again. And we saw this to be an incredible thing. People were calling us during the pandemic saying, hey, we need to build a contact tracing app. We'd send the pivotal labs to help them. DoorDash had us build a Tanzu observability app. So we saw a number of customers. And this is the way in which we want to help our customers invest in academies to train and enable them. Okay. So there's many others. There's 30 or so rules. I picked 2 or 3 that would hopefully inspire. The most important thing is, as a world population, Jim, we will get through this.
And as always, you're inspirational. I believe that the stock is down mostly because of all the stuff that we really can't talk about when Dell's done spinning you off, because, man, at 20 times earnings, it's a little too cheap. Sanjay Poonen, VMware COO, always great to see you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jim, for having me on your show.
Mad Money's back after the break.